Florida school district wins federal court appeal over trans bathroom fight.
I feel like this is just making it harder for them and worse for them.
Beth Van Middlesworth says she doesn't understand why the new state rule exists.
I felt that no matter what I did, no matter how I looked, there was always someone who could see straight through my disguise.
Her son Sam, who's transgender, says it's been tough enough using a public bathroom in peace.
I felt unsafe just walking about in the hall because I would get shouted at.
But parents on the other side,
parents should be fully informed,
believe it's about transparency.
After a 5-year legal battle, a sharply divided federal appeals court Friday upheld a St. Johns County School Board policy that prevented a transgender male student from using boys' bathrooms at a high school. The 11th United States Circuit Court of Appeals, in a 7-4 decision, said that the policy did not violate the constitutional equal protection rights of Drew Adams, who was required to use a gender-neutral single-stall bathroom or the girls' bathroom while a student at Nease High School. The court's majority also said that the policy did not violate Title IX, a federal law that prevents discrimination based on sex in education programs. In a 50-page majority opinion, Judge Barbara Lagoa wrote that the school board policy, quote, advances the important governmental objective of protecting students' privacy in school bathrooms. She said the school board's bathroom policy is clearly related to, indeed, is almost a mirror of, its objective of protecting the privacy interests of students to use the bathroom away from the opposite sex and shield their bodies from the opposite sex in the bathroom, which, like a locker room or shower facility, is one of the spaces in a school where such bodily exposure is most likely to occur. Lagoa was joined in the majority opinion by Chief Judge William Pryor and Judges Kevin Newsom, Elizabeth Branch, Britt Grant, Robert Luck, and Andrew Brasher, all of whom were appointed by Republican presidents.
God, where do we begin there? All white, all not understanding what marginalization is. I feel bad for that boy, that poor boy, okay? He's who I'm like struggling and sad about, you know? Yeah. I mean, he knows who he is authentically. This is who I am. And now the world is not going to support me and telling me to go to another bathroom. Do we need a third bathroom? Is that where we're at this point? Like, just like, F you, just give us our own bathroom.
I mean, the thing is, well, first of all, the 11th Circuit has always been one of the most conservative in the country. I think the 11th was the one that triggered eventually the Supreme Court taking up Obergefell versus Hodges, because William Pryor explicitly said that gays have no right to marry, and therefore the Supreme Court has stepped in because one circuit says that the gays can marry, one circuit says that they cannot. Right. This is going to... and I think that the Second Circuit is going to take up the more liberal side of the rulings, and then eventually this is going to go to the Supreme Court. The question there is whether this court will recognize gender identity as a protected class.
You mean the Supreme Court?
Yeah, the Supreme Court. And well, I mean, Gorsuch did rule in the favor that gender identity cannot be used in discriminating in terms of employment. So according to that logic, why can it be used to discriminate against people in school? Yeah. Because it is gender identity and sexual orientation are all discrimination on the basis of sex. So hopefully he'll see his own logic and consistently rule that way. But of course, that's
I think broadly one of the big issues of the 11th, but by the way, I completely agree with your assessment on the 11th district, and we have to understand what the 11th district is in terms of the conservative nature. They were against, the gay marriage decision, which is what brought it to the Supreme Court. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this, and it's not a positive or a negative interpretation, it's that we have evolving attitude and law coming for trans rights in America. And I don't currently yet, my crystal ball is not good enough to say this is what's going to happen. Because just as you said, the Supreme Court is contradictory on this. For the ruling that they did in terms of discrimination against the trans community, frankly surprised me, because I wasn't expecting the Gang of Six in the court to split. And to break from each other on it. And that's encouraging. But the overall thing of, I think what's important here is that trans law is evolving. And when you have people like DeSantis and Governor Abbott in Texas pounding a drum of it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, ultimately it's going to propel us into all kinds of lawsuits that are going to be resolved in the Supreme Court.
Well, not to mention, disgusting acts of domestic terrorism against LGBTQ people. We already seen it in Club Q in Colorado Springs.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think is very interesting in terms of what we're watching is when I hear this story and I think about who makes this decision and how they get there. When you're in most of the federal judgeships that make decisions like this, they are, like the Supreme Court, protected for life. That the leadership in the 11th is never going to be removed. They're either going to retire or they're going to die. What that means is the selections of those judges
just as important
are just as important as the Supreme Court. And we've almost at a 2-year milestone of President Biden.
This year, correct?
Exactly. And this year, for example, black women, other minority interests as federal judges, he has selected more than every other president in history.
And now that we have a 51-seat majority in the Senate, that will sail through. Now we no longer need to split committee leadership with the Republicans, thanks to 50-50. Now that we have 51-49, we can actually get judges through.
And that observation allows us to connect the most important dots, which is elections do matter. Holding control of the Senate mattered. Having those 51 seats and not relying on the vice president and a single Democratic senator running away out of the way, like Arizona and Kentucky. They have every right to vote however they want. That's not my criticism. But my point is, elections do matter. And when we sit out and go, oh, I'm good, no, we're not.
We're not.
We're not good, because black women, trans women, lesbian women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all hang in the balance of these federal judges that before they even get it to the Supreme Court.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.